his 11th novel, Vonnegut presents a story that uses a fictional global economic meltdown and a pandemic of disease that renders humankind sterile to deliberate a central question about society as a whole. The story begins by looking back on the year 1986 AD, a million years after the modern fictional apocalypse occurs. The sole survivors of this apocalypse are a group of tourists who take part in an ill-fated cruise and are stranded on the island of Santa Rosalia, the northernmost isolated Galapagos Islands. Throughout the rest of the story, with many surprising twists and turns, Vonnegut explores the very core of human nature and essentially what it means to be a human in Galapagos by Kurt Vonnegut.
Today we're at the local shopping centre to witness the interactions of local Homo sapiens.
That's right. Over the years, we've seen the development of the human brain and found it an extremely volatile weapon.
A super secret weapon that is destructive and altogether useless capability. We're going to stop the food problem.
We find humans in their natural habitats. We find them spending their time conversing amongst themselves rather than taking their time to gather food. Their brains have gotten in the way of basic survival instinct. Their need to improve their place in their superficial societies has found higher priority than making use of their feeding ground.
So, I guess you can talk about effects on the human brain in two ways. One are sort of short-term neurochemical effects of constant stimulation. That's a good question. For example, if you compare the life of a typical 17-year-old high school kid today in high school versus a 17-year-old, let's say, 100 years ago, the kind of information flow that those two people experienced were tremendously different. And you hear about these kids that spend hours and hours a day doing nothing but video games. Obviously that's going to overstimulate visual pathways. It's going to overstimulate the executive functional domain of the brain that's involved in fast reaction times and switching attention from one task to another. Artificially in a sense. That kind of stimulation never existed 100 years ago.
Quickly here, behind this corner. Let's observe this bloke here as he attempts to win the favor of this Sheila.
Hi. Yeah, I'll have the chocolate raspberry cheesecake and Can I have the cheesecake at least?
The oversized human brain has overcomplicated the basic courtship and therefore caused the bloke to fail at maintaining the reproductive qualities of the human race. His obsession with his physical and intellectual appearance can cause him to lose the simple ability to attract a Sheila.
Let's follow this next girl here. As we can see, her mode of dress doesn't do her any favors with the climate. However, we notice that she is trying to attract attention to herself. This is a typical case where the need to be physically appealing has found higher importance than her need to be warm. We notice again how the human brain has caused a loss of survival instinct.
Crocky, that's one beautiful specimen.
Superficiality.
Here we find ourselves at this lodge, where humans take hours and hours and hours to put themselves in ritualistic behaviors to improve their self-appearance.
They spend hours in that chair just sitting there. I don't know what they do.
Many people think it's not, but I don't see very much useful that comes out of it. For example, look at my friend here. He spends very little time on self-image, and he seems to do pretty well. let's say the human condition benefits very little. Well, the time that people spend trying to make themselves feel good.
Every year, humans spend copious amounts of money on products trying to improve their appearance, whether it be salon products or jewels to adorn themselves to make them look more attractive. The amount of money they spend to falsify their image could possibly feed a third world country. Which again raises the question, have our brains done us better? Or have they really done us worse?
The human race is heading in a dangerous direction. The superfluous tendencies that they have adapted to overcomplicate their lives has caused them to lose basic survival skills. There's juxtaposition between the great advancements that they as a race have been making and the way it has led to trivial manners in which they spend their time can only lead to detrimental outcomes for the people holistically. In the future, where do you see the human race going? To the moon or to the mall?